Hello, everyone, to the No Vision Internet Radio Show. We had started some music, some classical music there, get you in the mood. But anyways, thank you everyone for joining us. We're live here from No Vision Internet Radio Studio with me and Mr. Bautista, my co-host. And how are you doing today, sir?
Good evening. I'm doing great, George. Looking forward to our series of discussions for the various topics that will hopefully help visually impaired and totally blind people as well as the sighted.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do with this. We're going to do a series of live shows to talk about, it might be for a while, folks, because there's a lot to cover, but we're going to talk about a lot of things that what happens when someone goes blind or for example, has diabetes and they lose their vision or is born blind. And we want to talk about those issues that really impact us. Because myself, I'm blind, low vision, and Mr. Bautista is also. And we're going to give a little background to us and about us. And so to we want the show to be interactive. In other words, we want your feedback. So with that being said, if you want to give feedback, go ahead and you could email us at info@novisioninternetradio.com. That's info at novisioninternetradio.com. Or you could call our line. Right now, I didn't activate it for this show. Well, I mean, it's on, but I didn't put it in the show because I wanted this particular discussion to include, to have everything that we're going to do. And so, but our number is 1-800-219-6663. That's 915-219-6663. That what you could do when we do call-ins. You could call in, provide testimonials, experiences, tips and trips, tips and tricks. There you go. I said that right. Me and Mr. Bautista, we have a lot of experience when it comes to living with a disability. Even though work experience, we're both married. We both had our own home, so we have those experiences that we want to provide to everyone, and we want you to be part of that discussion. So with that being said, Mr. Bautista, can you just tell people a background about yourself?
A little bit about myself. I grew up in the city of El Paso, Texas. Uh, as a young boy, I used to sell newspapers and shine shoes, I ended up going to the blind school in Alamogordo, New Mexico, in the age of about 12, 13. And I really didn't know much about blindness. I had, been around blind people. I guess I was the only blind, or visually impaired person in the whole city because I never knew of anybody. And I graduated from high school there at the Alamogordo High School. I'm a school for the blind. Went to Las Vegas, New Mexico, to the University of Highlands. Graduated from there with a BA and plus, with a special education, physical education, and Spanish. And I started working up in the northern part of New Mexico in the 70s, and finally I got back about 20 years back ago to El Paso. I've been blind or visually impaired all my life, but in the last 11 years, I went totally blind, and it was a drastic, big change. It wasn't a shocker because I've been around blind people and haven't gone to the blind school, so somewhat I was prepared. But I know there's a lot of people that lose their sight, and like my mom lost her sight overnight, and it was a big shocker for her, and just people don't know what to do, think that's the end of the world, and it's not.
No, it's not. You're right. And Mr. Bautista, he's a good example. I mean, I know this man for 20, 25, 30 years, and he's been an example to me when I was younger too, because I would see, man, this man is blind or visually impaired, and he's a teacher. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. But that's what we want to do, folks. We want to talk about, don't focus too much on your disability, on your vision loss. Focus more on what you could do, on your abilities, right, Mr. Buzz? I mean, yeah, we all
Yes.
have. Even think about this. Even if you're not blind, guess what? You have limitations. So don't put it to where you're gonna say, oh wow, I'm blind. I can't do this. I can't do that. You can. It's just the thing is, everyone on this earth right now, folks, has limitations. Trust me. Okay. So about myself, my name is George. I'm from the same area as Mr. Bautista here in Texas, El Paso. And for me, I was low vision most of my life. I will say most of my life, but it got worse in 2012. I wasn't driving, but I was involved in a car accident, and that's kind of accelerated my vision loss. And so now I only see light. And so I experienced the sighted world, and now I experience this world, which is a big difference. And I understand how people get traumatized from losing their vision. It's a lot, folks. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's scary, and I'm not gonna. I told my family. I told my mom when she got rest in peace. I told her at one point I wanted suicide because I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, but I knew how to overcome it, how to deal with it. At one point, when I was in Dallas in the car accident, I was working for the U.S. Department of Labor. Great job, but I had to leave that job because of my vision loss because it got worse, and I was really not performing to the level where I wanted to. And it's not fair to the clients or customers that I had. So I went ahead and resigned, came back to El Paso, and I was still recovering from the car accident. I was in ICU for over 10 days. Well, anyways, so I came back to El Paso, lucky enough to get a contract with the workforce here. The workforce is called the Borderplex Workforce Solutions. I worked there for 3 years, and then the contract was over. And now I'm with the Texas Attorney General Child Support. And see, the reason why we talk about our experiences in working is because we want you to think about that. Not only yourself, but let's say you have a parent like Mr. Bautista is always telling me, which is true, about your spouses. Because sometimes you only think about yourself. I've been guilty of that. But Mr. Bautista, he reminds me sometimes, hey, your wife, like my wife, or we don't have kids, we have dogs. But the point is, my wife, my relatives, my aunts and uncles, they all are impacted by my vision loss. What I mean by that is they help me, like they help you, right, Mr. Bautista?
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's not a bad thing, folks. It's not a bad thing where you have to ask for help, but try to do as much as you can by yourself. And if you can't, that's fine. But just try to do as much as you can. And of course, if you need help, ask for that help. So, well, Mr. Bautista, we're going to go and play that audio clip. But this gentleman, I haven't met him yet, or hopefully one day we'll. I got this through. It's called Living Bode Through Blindness. I believe that's correct. It's a YouTube series. And this gentleman's, I don't know, Mr. Bautista, let me ask you a question. Some people say yes and some people say no. Inspiration. Like, oh, you're an inspiration. I don't like that word. I rather say I'm an example. Okay, I'm not an inspiration, because inspiration like something that came out of the, oh, wow. No. I'm just blind, and I'm an example of what I could do. Like Mr. Bautista, he's an example. He's a teacher, and so I don't know. What do you think about that, Mr. Bautista?
It's partly true. Inspiration. You're inspired by those people who, for instance, when growing up, you were inspired by those people that you saw in, in high level jobs, and you were saying, wow, those people. So inspiration is partly true, and then but the other thing is that it's perception. I think it's how you view the world around you, and when you lose your sight, you view the world around you in a totally different way. And so it's like you have two different worlds, the sighted people and the non-sighted people, and you got to deal with them, and they have to know where you're at, and how you function. And that's one of the purposes for this show, is to even show the sighted world, because they're not totally aware of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're scared to even come in contact with us, because if it's like they're afraid to communicate with us because they don't know how.
Well,
And so this is good for all of us.
yeah, perfect. Like you say, the sighted and the people with disability or vision impairment. And this gentleman, he's a great example of what me and Mr. Bautista want to portray to you and everyone, is that there's going to be a time and place, and we'll talk about that in later shows, about being independent when you're young, growing up as an adult, or as a teenager, and then going into an adult as someone with a visual impairment. We have different experiences, so it's not bad. The experience you've had is just your own experience. So if somebody calls you, oh, you're dumb because you're blind, that's not true. It's because they see it. That doesn't mean it's true, right? So that's the thing. So they're going to play this clip, and then we'll come back.
I was born with a degenerative eye disease called morning glory syndrome, and by age 9 I was totally blind. So I'm in the United States, and I'm at the Department of Transportation. I'm a program assistant for their Information Technology and Business Operations Division, and I manage a full-scale technology help desk. And I also process payroll for 9 people.
Well, Mario is my program assistant, and he's responsible for working with me to ensure that the organization runs smoothly. So, in essence, he has quite a bit of responsibilities here with the organization. Mario has been able to do everything that I've given him.
Technology is the key for the visually impaired. I use JAWS. The software converts all of the text on the computer screen into speech so that a blind person can independently manipulate the computer, word process, email process, internet research, just by using the keyboard.
I think I made the right choice because Mario can do the job. And I don't think it matters whether Mario had a disability or not. Mario was the right person for the job. He interviewed just like everyone else, and he proved to be the best person for the job. And now that he is in the job, he continues to prove that every day.
When you get in those situations where you feel sorry for being blind, or you feel like life is tough, sure, it's going to happen. You cannot stay there, because at the end of the day, you will still need to provide for yourself. Because of technology, because of what's available to you, it's not the end all. You can be just as cool as the next sighted person as a blind person. My plan A is to one time make it to Hollywood as either a singer or a prominent broadcaster. I needed to step up my game in this technological age and join the YouTube campaigners. People will play song requests, I learn the songs, memorize them, and I perform them. And I love it.
Well, there you go, folks. And he mentioned something that, he noticed. He said about being depressed is don't. Everybody gonna get sad, or, like the other day I was trying to plug in a lamp behind our nightstand. I couldn't find the plugs. I was getting so frustrated because I'm like, damn it, I used to be able to do this when I was younger and I could see it. But you know what? Just learn a technique and move on. Like Mr. Belt, what's that about? That one you were telling me the other day about sweeping, and then there it clicked about sweeping towards the wall.
Well, it's a technique that I learned when I lost my sight. If you try to sweep in the middle, you miss a lot of the spots, or you miss picking up the dirt or whatever. If you sweep it towards the wall, and then come back around and sweep around in a circle, then you can pick up all the trash or whatever. It's just a small, a very brief, technique that was taught to me, and it works, And a lot of times, blind people don't know. Whether you ask them, well, go sweep the kitchen. Well, I don't know how to do. I can't do that. Yeah, you can. You just have to learn the various techniques. I've learned a lot of skills because I cook. I like to cook in my house, and I used to cook before I lost my sight. I used to be the one that cooked, and so you have to compensate for those kinds of things. And so you learn techniques, and there's always a way. If there's a will, there's a way. You just have to figure it out for yourself.
Yep, that's true. And when he was also mentioning, folks, for those who are newly blind or who are blind, or even the spouses and friends or brothers and sisters, there's technology now. In 2021, there's
awesome, yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
there's JAWS, there's NVDA, there's on your iPhone, there's VoiceOver, on Android is TalkBack. And there's so many things and advances compared to how they were back even 10 years ago, folks.
George, the space program has been the most important program for blind people. That's where we have gotten all our technology. And I was listening to the guy, gentleman typing. If you start early enough, if you teach kids, early enough to keyboard, that's one of the biggest secrets. When I was teaching, I had to use the computer for everything because I couldn't see that well to do the handwriting stuff. So I did all my work on the computer. And had I had all the computer equipment that I have now, if I had that equipment when I first went to college, man, I would have been quite a person. But I didn't. The only thing is, so you have to live and work with what you have. And I did. I made it through college. I taught for 32 years. I also coached wrestling for a good part of my career. My three sons are state champions. I coached them to become state champions, and it's a one thing that I am very proud of myself is that I wasn't just another wrestling coach. I was one of the best. And I say that because I produced.
Yep, you produce, and that's the thing. That's exactly what I mean by being an example. We have to be examples and say, you know what? I challenge people. If I say if I could do it, you could do it. Simple as that. And by the way, talking about technology, Mr. Bautista, we have, he's allowed to talk. He said that we could talk about this. Mr. Bautista, which is true when it comes to people with disabilities or visual impairment. A lot of people with visual impairment have diabetes, and that's an onset of their vision loss.
Yeah.
But one of the things I don't live with it, not gonna more than that yet. But Mr. Bautista's been there with years, so he pokes his finger and pokes his fingers, and I'm gonna play a little audio clip, and this is what we're trying to do with this show is give a foundation to what the further discussion is going to be on the show. But I'm going to play a little clip, kind of give you a hint what Mr. Bautista is going to talk about real briefly, okay? Let me go ahead and play that real fast.
Paul loves food,
You want to order?
but his diabetes made food a mystery. Everything felt like a no. But then Paul went from no to no. With Freestyle Libre 2, now he knows how food affects his glucose. And he knows when to make different choices. Take the mystery out of your glucose levels and lower your A1C. Now you know. Try it for free. Visit freestylelibre.us.
And just briefly, Georgia,
Yes, sir.
people that are on Medicare or Medicaid, all of you that are on Medicare, you qualify for this this Freestyle Libre sensor, but a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah,
See,
and we're that's the thing. That's the folks. That's one of the shows we're going to bring to you. We're going to talk about what websites are out there. We're going to talk about support mechanisms. We're going to try to have people on the show to talk about their experience, their testimony, and how they could do better. Like me and Mr. Bautista, we learned off each other. For example, like the sweeping thing, it's a really simple thing, right? But it didn't click. But vice versa, I tell him about what I do. He's like, okay, so that's what we're trying to do with this show is bring up. Now, don't be afraid to talk. If you're like, oh, you know what, I don't know how to do this, or this is what we want to do. This is a series, or the show. I'm sorry, that we want to bring to you the information. So again, if you want to participate, or you have feedback, or you have a suggestion, email us at info@novisioninternetradio.com. I'll say it again, info@novisioninternetradio.com. Or if you don't have an internet, or if you don't have an email, you don't want to do an email, because I'm lazy. Sometimes I don't want to do an email. Call 1-800-219-6663 or 1-800-219-6663. Now, in future shows, we're going to have that line open, so you will call in over the air and tell us about your comment or suggestion or whatever you want to talk about to make life less stressful. Because everybody has. I mean, we got bills, we have family things, we have all this stuff, and we don't want to add more, but just because I'm blind. Oh, here we go.
And George, there are lots of parents or adults. They're afraid when they find out that they have a child that's blind. And say, how do I work? The best coach in the world that I had, who taught me what I know and who made me a success. Both him and his wife were blind, and I used to wonder how in the world can they function as blind people, and they were both educators, and I just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But they and you go to their house, the spotless place on earth, and you figure everything was organized. They knew where everything was, and so you just have to learn to listen to other people and say, well, how do I do this? Don't be afraid.
Well, can I say something, Mr. Bautista, about that?
Sure.
And that just what were you being organized, and that's one thing that the sighted world has to understand when it comes to someone, in our experience, that me and Mr. Bautista experience, is if I leave a cup here, or I leave my keys here, or if I leave in a particular space, leave it there, because so my wife, she's sighted. So at first, but now she understands that, don't leave cups on the table. Okay, if I could come in and hit it, it's going to knock over. So she puts the cups on her kitchen table or kitchen counter. So, well, it's not because we want to be real clean, that's the way you want to be. But organization, trust me, folks, with someone that's blind or visually or low vision, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Go ahead.
I was going to tell you, you talk about knocking glasses. I used to do that all the time, and my wife would have to help me clean it because I'd spill it all over the, whatever. And and I finally learned, okay, that you have to go slow, and you
Mm-hmm.
slide your hand, in an open manner, and instead of having to reach for the cup, you're sliding for the bottom of the cup, and that's how I learned. You just learn through experience, and if somebody doesn't know, you share that information. That's the one thing that we need to learn to do, as blind people. We need to learn to share what we know instead of trying to say, well, I had to learn it on the hard way. But let him learn the hard
And
way.
then the thing about what you said, Mr. Balti, is so true. If you slide your hand towards the cup, I killed, recently killed, I used to have three computers. I killed
Yeah,
my backup computer because I dropped tea on it. But you're right. If I would have slid my hand, I would have not hit it over. But since since I reached to the top, I
yeah.
knocked it over. So that's, all these things we're going to talk about, folks. We're going to trying to have independent living skills people on our show to talk about their, what techniques they know of. Because, like, again, our ultimate goal with this show is to help you. Okay. And like I said, if you have ideas, suggestions, let us know.
We
And
want
one
to
thing
learn.
yeah.
We want to learn from them too, as well,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I know there's a lot of people out there that can teach us. Even just I used to use the cane, uh, but I wasn't using it properly, and so we're hoping to bring somebody that teaches cane walk or cane travel. Uh, Guide dogs, I've had three guide dogs, and people say, well, I don't want to have a guide dog because you got to groom him and you got to feed him and this and that. But I'll tell you, when it comes to getting to a location from point A to point B, I prefer a guide dog over a cane.
Yep.
Oh, anytime. You know.
And that's the thing. People, it's like some people prefer a CMI dog. Some people, bless you, or some people prefer using a white cane. And also, when it comes to white canes, I didn't really, realize this. There's different the tips. There's like a big old ball tip, and there's like a little tip, like the regular tip. That makes a difference too. And that's why I'm like, all these little things, we don't think about, or our relatives or friends don't think about every little thing. And we're also going to try to talk about how to guide someone that's visually impaired. And
Yeah.
one thing I want to make sure that I emphasize in this first show is that we'll never push a philosophy of a group. What I mean by is we're not going to push NFB philosophy. We're not going to push ACB. We're not going to push AFB because you know what, folks? At the end of the day, is what works for you.
And it's
You know?
it's about blindness, not about policies or groups of individual people. To determine, like, we're not going to be discussing issues like we're Republicans or Democrats or independent. We're just blind people who want to help
I don't care
other blind people.
and it's true, right, Mr. Bautista? Those who are listening who are blind and visually impaired, especially blind, you don't know the person you're talking to. You don't know if they're fat, they're short, they're ugly, they're blonde, you don't care. You're just talking to the person, and that's how the world should be.
And most people that are blind, George, don't discriminate because they can't see. Yeah, they can't tell maybe by the voice, but you can't tell whether you're,
Yeah,
black, brown, or
brown
white.
or yeah,
That's why when I went to the blind school, I was wondering, they don't call each other names or stuff like that. Well,
I
that's
don't know.
because they couldn't see the color,
You know
and
what? Let me tell you an experience. I tell people about this experience here in El Paso. We're near a base, a military base. So one day, I was working at the workforce. Excuse me, and I wasn't married yet, so I was living in an apartment. And so I was in the parking lot waiting for the paratransit to come pick me up. Here in El Paso, it's called the lift. And so I was out there, and I was just waiting, la, la, la. And all of a sudden, this man walks up to me. We started talking about the weather and this and that. And I thought he was a cool guy because where I was waiting, it was near the main street, the main sidewalk. So people were passing by all the time. So he was talking to me, and then, all right, cool, whatever. And then, real nice man. So he left. So I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, I hear footsteps running towards me. I'm like, uh-oh. And he runs up to me. The guy says, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "What? What's going on?" He goes, "Did he bother you?" I'm like, "No," because this gentleman that he was talking to me, he was in the military. He goes, "That homeless guy, he didn't bother you?" I'm like, "Oh, he was homeless? I didn't know that." I didn't, he didn't smell bad. He didn't smell like alcohol. He's just a real sweet man. Later on, because I knew this, I ran into him again, and we had a friendship. Because I based my discussion on how he sounded, not how he smelled, or how he looked, or what he was wearing. But having said that, talking about descriptions, and this is for granted, a lot of the stuff we're showing right now, it may be preaching to the choir, but we want to do is kind of, like I said, go back to building that foundation, not only for those who are blind like us, those who are sighted, to understand where we come from. And the reason I say that is that I love audio description movies. Some people don't, some people do. And the other day, my wife happened to put on called Red Notice. It's a movie on Netflix with what's his name? I always forget his name. He's the guy, The Rock from the wrestling, Dwayne Johnson. And so she had audio description. So I'm walking into the kitchen. I hear, she have audio description? So I walk in the living room. I go, you have audio description? She goes, yeah, it's neat. So what I'm going to just play a little clip or a little audio clip, just kind of put in perspective what we're talking about. Like I said, this might be preaching to the choir, but again, this is what we want to do, is just show people, maybe someone that's newly blind doesn't know, right, Mr. Bautista? Maybe they don't know. There's audio description. And it's available on your iPhone. It's available through Netflix. It's available through Apple TV. So they're going to play a little clip.
And I don't know if all the servers have it, George. I know that.
Yeah. And that's the bad thing about it. Not every movie has it. So when you're lucky, like I'm going to Netflix, and I pin it, and it starts. I'm like, yes, it has it. So it's like winning the lottery. Yes. But
it's a lot of fun, though.
Yeah. Let me go play that audio.
Just watch a movie and close your eyes, and you can't follow most movies with just listening. Be like, who's that? What's going on?
Police lights flash on the front of the buyer's house as Officer Callahan stands outside with Joyce and Jonathan.
Audio description is a description of the action that's going on in between the dialogue.
Inside the dark house, Hopper walks down the hallway with a flashlight.
For blind people, having that audio description, it becomes their eyes.
I definitely say Orange is the New Black, Stranger Things and Game of Thrones have been my audio description highlights.
11 closes her eyes. Elsewhere in the lab, the man from the photo sits at a table with a piece of paper.
I can't see anything at all. So actually, I've never had audio description on live, as it were. So having it on TV is a great start.
I use it for watching TV programs, for films at home, films in the cinema.
Theatre and cinema are my favourites.
I use audio description when I go to football matches.
A lot of those little subtleties in the way a person looks or something they do with their hands is actually a massive part of the story.
11 steps out wearing the dress and wig. Lucas gives Dustin an impressed look as Mike gawks at her.
If it's a gentle film, they'll have perhaps a gentler voice.
Blinks, tilting his head.
And in the action films, they'll have a harder edge description.
It drags dried growth and a piece of shepherd's suit across the floor, leaving behind a trail of blood.
All that tension, a lot of that is based in seeing what's happening and getting a sense of the atmosphere. And that's really brought to life as well by audio description.
Well, for the millions of people.
Well, Mr. Bautista, I mean, do you use audio description or no?
No, I don't. Occasionally I do, but most of the time I want to go straight to the to the story. And I don't watch some of the stuff that you do. I watch Gunsmoke.
That's right.
I love the cowboy movies. And
the generation, yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
They're not going to have any video description.
No, they're not.
But the thing about the audio description is that you've been instrumental in challenging the newscasters and the TV stations and the radio stations to have that, because for emergency purposes
yes.
We need it, and
yes, especially during the pandemic. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you've done that, and so that's great, and we need for people to know that they can challenge the stations or they're at, if it's whether you're in Dallas or Albuquerque, you should be able to
Wisconsin,
go to your station and say, look, I'm blind and I'd like to be able to hear everything that goes on.
So basically what Mr. Bautista said, if you catch the drift of it, is Be independent. Be your own advocate. Don't just because, so like I said earlier, just because someone's misconceptions is not going to hamper your life. And what I mean by that is the biggest, and I always ask this question, the biggest barrier for anyone with a disability, either is autism, blindness, you're in the wheelchair, you're hard of hearing, is perception.
Yeah.
Because
and the thing is that especially what I want to do is I want to make sure that encourage blind and visually impaired people to go use the blind voting method, because if you don't use it, they won't have it. So I mean, they have a audio recorders that allow you to vote without having to have somebody do it for you.
And it was
You want to be as independent as you
Yes,
can when
exactly.
you can.
Exactly, and that's the thing that's what we're going to emphasize to this whole show. Now, next time we have it, then independence, because folks, I know some of you live with your parents. You're young or you're older. You live with your parents because you're visually impaired or blind, and there's going to be a day there, folks. I'm going to tell you from experience. Me and Mr. Bautista, your mom and dad are not going to be here. So what happens? What happens to you? And the reason I'm saying that because I'm going to play this clip, and at the end of the clip, listen to what he says. Listen to what the reporter says, and it's so appropriate for right now. And this clip I want to play, Mr. Bautista, is an app that I use a lot. It's called Be My Eyes. This is a recording when it first came out. But what I want to emphasize again with this app, it makes you independent. Because what happens, folks, is when you're blind or you become newly blind, what happens? I can't do this. I can't see this. I don't know what Coke that is or what this is or what's going on. Be My Eyes will open those doors. Because one time, I couldn't call my wife. It was through FaceTime because she was at work. And so dogs were barking really loud out there. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? So I used Be My Eyes. I pointed it towards our fence. And there was a man out there. We had a delivery. But what I'm saying is use, if you can, technology. Use the resources to be independent. Okay, folks? I know it's scary. I've been there. Mr. Bautista's been there. It's scary because you're like, what do I do now? Well, I'll be able to shave. Or I'll be able to do this. Yes.
Well, George, before you play that, your iPhone, if you have the iPhone, if you get lost, it's got a GPS.
Yes.
A walking GPS. A lot of people don't use it or don't know about it, but it's there. So instead of panicking, just pull out your phone and it'll tell you. In fact, all you have to do is say current position, and it'll tell you where you're at.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, it has a new feature now. Well, not a new feature. It's been there for a while. SOS. So, if you can, to a seeing eye dog or to a white cane, try go to the corner. Try to get those O&M instructions. Now, granted, not every, I want to make sure we say this, not every place you live is going to have services, but look for a rehab, rehabilitation center like here in El Paso or here in Texas called DARS, or I'm sorry, TWC Rehab, Woke Rehab.
TWF.
Yeah. Or look for an advocacy or group around your area. There's NFB, there's ACB, there's AFB, which is American Foundation for the Blind. Look for those groups to help you. You're not alone, folks. You're not alone. Trust me when I tell you that. So look for those people. Look for those people that will help you live a more productive life. Don't be scared of asking for help, okay? But use those tools. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Like I said, this is a little clip from earlier because it said it was released a month ago, but actually it was released several years ago. But listen to the end. Listen to the end. I'll come back.
Well, for the millions of people that are blind or visually impaired, everyday tasks can be difficult, but there's a new app trying to help with that.
Begad Shaban brings us this amazing story.
45-year-old Julian Vargas can find his way just about anywhere. He's been blind most of his life and enjoys being independent, but says there are moments when he and others who are visually impaired need help.
When we're trying to get some information or detail that's only available visually, we'll joke around and say, God, if I only had a pair of eyes I could borrow right now.
A new free app for smartphones called Be My Eyes aims to solve that problem.
I'm not as familiar with the aisles here, so I was thinking that maybe you could be my eyes.
The app uses a phone's camera and microphone to get the blind instantly connected to sighted volunteers like Elvira Medina.
If you go a little bit more to your left.
This one here?
That one, you got it.
Since the app launched last month, Medina has helped blind users locate medicine, figure out expiration dates, and even shop for their favorite orange juice.
That one has no pulp.
Okay, that's what I want.
Okay, perfect. This app is actually something that is helping people, and in such a small scale, but means so much.
More than 115,000 volunteers have signed up to help the roughly 10,000 blind who've enrolled so far. What are these volunteers giving you?
They're giving us sometimes what we need the most at that given second, a pair of eyes.
The service is available in 80 languages. Vargas says it's making an impact. You don't have to see to believe.
You don't have to see to believe. Amen to that. Amen to that. So, well, folks, like I said, hope we brought you, like I said, some of the stuff that people already know, or some people don't know, those who are newly blind. So, just like I said, we're going to bring up a lot of stuff, put in your suggestions regarding what you want to see. So, Mr. Bautista, before we leave, do you want to give more advice, sir, or more comments?
No, just I think what we've done is giving them a good start to look forward to some of the things. We want to bring some people who have skills, special skills. They're going to come onto our show and discuss their success. So yeah, I think we've done what we wanted to do for today, and we look forward to having people listen to our program and make calls or send us emails.
No, call and send us emails. You want to be on the, because see, I was telling Mr. Bautista too. I want to have a perspective of a female, of a woman, regards, because we're men. We have different perceptions, different experiences. So what is it with someone that's vision impaired or blind that's a woman? What do they experience? So that's another thing we want to do. So one more time, email us at info@novisioninternetradio.com or call us at 1-800-219-6663. And well, Mr. Bautista, we'll probably I want to put you on the spot here. Sorry about that. How are we going to do this? Every 2 weeks, every week, every month? How do you want to do this?
Well, I'd like to see it get started with doing it every 2 weeks, and then maybe depending on how it goes, we can go every week.
No, so well, it might have to wait because the next 2 weeks is Christmas. So
yeah,
I don't know.
It's a good time to have one too.
That's true. Yeah, we can do it. I mean, you just gotta click and listen, right? Just click and listen.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Bautista,
as I always say, hasta la vista, George and Jesus Bautista.
Bye bye.